going on, Jerome's? It is a beautiful Thursday, and on Thursdays we tell the truth because we forgot to do this video on Tuesday. That's what we do. But here are 10 truths about the Minnesota Vikings as we head into the thick THICC of the offseason. Free agency coming up. We got the NFL Combine this week. Obviously, the draft. It's good times. Number one, this is the most important offseason in team history. Now, last offseason was pretty damn important, right? So you moved on from Kirk Cousins, Danielle Hunter, turning the page, got your quarterback of the future in J.J. McCarthy, got your future talisman on the edge of Diamond Dallas Turner, had probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, free agent class in NFL history with Darnold, with AVG, Grenard, Cashman outside. How about that? Gilly, Aaron Jones, etc. But this one's a big one because you know what you have to do. Rebuild the trenches, and you have the cap space. You weathered the dead cap hits last year, and even though you don't have a ton of draft picks, you can certainly get after it. So this is going to be like a foundational draft. I mean, last year, quarterback, edge rusher, all the stars. But this one is in the trenches, improving the interior offensive line, getting a pass rushing defensive line, all of that stuff. It's extremely important and one that's going to pay dividends for many, many years to come for the Vikings. Next up, truth number 2. This is Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell's team now. Now, I understand what you're saying. It's like, oh, but it's been their team for the last couple of years. Under the constraints of, hey, we need to have a competitive rebuild as opposed to, I'm sure what Kwesi would have preferred is, hey, we are going to get rid of a lot of veteran contracts in 2022. We're going to take all the dead cap hits. We are going to trade players for picks. We're going to strip this baby down. We're probably going to start like Nick Mullins at quarterback. We will go 3-14. We will have a high draft pick. We'll have a ton of cap space freed up for 2023, and we'll have a ton of draft picks. I'm sure that that's exactly what Kwesi would have wanted to do, but ownership wouldn't have bought that, right? And the Wilfs, respect, like having a good competitive team, putting butts in seats, making money. That's what's important. Way more important than hoping that the fans stick around and weather the storm as you put together a weakened side. As you look to turn the page, no, doesn't make any sense. But the Vikings in that competitive rebuild did some good things. 13-win season, had a 14-win season, would have had double digits if Kurt didn't get hurt in 2023. But now, a lot of the veteran Spielman, Zimmer era players are gone outside of Harrison Smith. J.J. McCarthy or Justin Jefferson, don't count him. But now this is basically Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi's team. They've had multiple off seasons. Usually it takes about 3 for a GM and head coach regime to really put their stamp on things. And now this is exactly where they want to be. And with Flores on defense in year 3 as well as ahead into year 4, this is their team. So now, I mean, every single player at every single level has either been signed, drafted by Kwesi, or re-signed to a deal. All right, so that's what's really important here for the Vikings. Number 3, Kwesi's extension depends on how they address the needs of this offseason. So I think the team is finally catching up to every fan watching on Sunday, just like, oh, our interior offensive line sucks. Oh, our defensive line is good against the run, but can't rush the passer. They need to get those things sutured up. And the Vikings have all the cap space in the world, able to get things done. They can go after big-ticket items like Trey Smith, like Milton Williams. They can truly get after things in free agency. And then the draft can be the draft, where the Vikings don't have a ton of draft picks, but they have enough capital in terms of cap space where they can be players in free agency. They can check the boxes of a lot of needs, so they don't have to be tethered to one position when it comes to the draft, which is going to be important. Next up, number 4. This is the perfect draft for the Vikings. So I know that some people have called this draft boring. It's not a good quarterback class. It's not a very good wide receiver class. But that's perfectly fine because the Vikings, they have the quarterback, they have the receivers, they're going to be good to go. But the Vikings' specific needs, defensive line, one of the best recent defensive line classes in history. Running back, certainly one of the best running back classes in history as well. Cornerback is deep. Interior offensive line, not top heavy, but overall, like there's going to be some decent starters in the 5th and 6th rounds, which is good for the Vikings. So overall, this is a meat and potatoes draft, which is good because the Vikings have meat and potato needs, right? And I thank my lucky stars that I'm living here today because the flag still stands for freedom. But I'm so happy that the Vikings aren't searching for a wide receiver 1 or quarterback in this draft because they might be SOL. Right? It's very scarce resources in those departments. Number 5, no excuses not to fix the trenches. Like Kwesi even said it. Kwesi even said at his press conferences, the team's weaknesses, and also getting pressure of 4 is huge. So there's absolutely no excuse. You have the monies. Players want to be here. You look at the NFLPA report card. They built a great culture here, great facilities, great ownership, great coaches, and also this is a winning organization with a bright future with J.J. McCarthy. Players want to be here because the money is the money is the money, but if you can get the money and win and have a good professional life and your family is taken care of and you feel like you're part of it, the term family gets tossed around way too much in terms of like sports and like corporate cultures, but it actually does feel like that. Like this is not transactional. Your head coach actually gives two poops about you. So get it done. Absolutely get it done. Next up, number 6. Move up for Ashton Jeanty. So we said this is one of the deepest running back classes in recent memory, but there are levels to this thing. And I love Amarian Hampton. I love Caleb Johnson. I love Trevon Henderson. I love Judkins. I love Scadaboo. I love RJ Harvey. I love Sampson. I love there is no Dana, only Bashul. There's so many good running backs in this class, but I think that Jeanty has a chance to be really special. I think that Jeanty could be a top 5 running back in the league, and he's not 5 immediately. And if and when the Vikings fix the interior offensive line, you got J.J. McCarthy and his mobility and play action ability as well. Plus, if you add Jeanty into this mix, and he's a more than capable receiver, they just didn't use him in the passing game much because he just ran the ball so damn much, 347 carries. But immediately, Jeanty would turn the Vikings into the best offense in the league, bar none. Bar none. All right? And with the defense being able to play downhill because his offense is racking up and stacking up so many damn points, I mean, that's got to be exciting. And Kwesi even gushed about the running back position, is that the running back can make the offense and the defense better because of moving the chains, arresting that defense, extending drives, running that clock, not settling for field goals, punching it in for 6. I mean, the more you think about it, the more, if he falls out of the top 10, if he gets past the Bears at 10, you would think about it. Oh, but the first round pick next year. First round pick's going to be number 32. Don't worry about it. Don't worry, be happy. All right. And also, if and when Jeanty turns into LaDainian Tomlinson, I feel like the number 24 overall pick and a future number 32 overall pick will be okay compensation. That's just me. 7, tight end is position need. So you got TJ Hawkinson getting a little bit older and also another full year removed from that knee. Hopefully he can resume being a 100 and 1,000 yard potential type tight end. But you look at Josh Oliver, could be a cut candidate. Final year of his 3-year, $21 million deal. Johnny Munt's a free agent. Nick Muse went to the Eagles, won a Super Bowl. So this could be an interesting spot. And I like Loveland. I like Fannin. I like Lachey a little bit later on. I mean, it wouldn't shock me at all if the Vikings check a lot of boxes in terms of needs and free agency. All of a sudden, if Loveland is somehow there at 24, take him. Just take him. And just reuniting him with J.J. McCarthy, it'll be a good time. Speaking of J.J., number 8, he's quarterback 1. But honestly, I think we've known that for a while. It really was the national media. And we've talked about this before. To a degree, I give national media jabroni haircuts a little bit of leeway because it's difficult to have your finger on the pulse of 32 teams. You only have 10 phalanges. Yeah. But that's why I just feel like it was surface analysis of, hey, the Vikings could bring Darnold back. Hey, they could tag him. They could do whatever. Now, I was on board with that until after the Packers game. Honestly, after the Packers game, I'm just like, if and when Darnold wins the Super Bowl for the Vikings, just pay him whatever. I do not care. Trade McCarthy, get what you can, blah, blah, blah. But that's how bad Darnold was against the Lions and the Rams. When you needed him the most. And, Kwesi even talked about that too, where it's tough to balance. Do you over-index or under-index the 14 wins versus what happened the last 2 most important games of the season? It's kind of rough. But, McCarthy's quarterback 1. I think he always was quarterback 1. even though Darnold played so well for about a 7-game stretch that maybe you considered alternative options, but no. And also, I do think that the Darnold tag and trade is plausible, where the Stafford domino is going to be the number one to fall. Like, if he goes to the Raiders, I think Darnold could go to the Rams. If Stafford stays with Rams, go to the Raiders. If Stafford goes to the Giants, he go to the Raiders or the Rams. So I think that basically Darnold is going to be in demand, and I think that teams don't want to get into a bidding war in open free agency. And I think that the Vikings will eventually end up tagging Darnold before the deadline next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Central Time, the only time zone that matters. And I think that Darnold will get traded for, the equivalent value of a second-round pick. We'll just go from there. Lastly, the Vikings are close. The Vikings are very, very close because all of the resources to fix the trenches are there, whether in free agency, whether the draft. And if the Vikings get their ish together along the offensive line and they're able to get home with 4 along the defensive line, everything else is set up perfectly. I mean, even if they don't get Gentry, I mean, they're still going to have a potential to have a top 5 offense right out of the gate, even with a de facto rookie quarterback. Defensively, you get a pass rush up front. You can already stop the run with a scheme. You got Cashman and Pace, second level. You got, I don't know, maybe Beasley, maybe Murph. You got Metellus in there too. But you can fix the cornerback room. You can re-sign Beasley or get a replacement or bring in Theo Jackson. The Vikings are close. And, yeah, you got to go through the Eagles and the NFC. I think the Lions are going to take a huge step back. The Niners, can they rebound, especially after they pay Purdy $60 million per year? Don't know. But the Vikings, again, it goes back into the most important offseason team history. Like, all the pieces are coming together. Everything's going according to plan. And if J.J. McCarthy is an MFer, like everyone thinks that he is, and the Vikings can get a pass rush from the D-line, sky is a friggin' limit. Absolutely is, man. But that's it. Tan. A truce about the Vikings on this beautiful, glorious Thursday. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Hit up the Venmo. Skull production value.